We firmly believe hospitalizations will continue to trend down in the coming days and weeks, even as the restrictions exemption program and mandatory masking for children and youth come to an end. Now, we recognize that all Albertans have their own individual risk tolerance, and they have a right to feel safe in their own way. Some may be more at risk themselves or live with vulnerable people who are more at risk for severe outcomes from COVID-19. Or indeed, some may be parents who want to protect their young children who are not yet eligible for vaccination. I only ask that we give each other the space and consideration we all need to navigate through this transition period. Please respect others' people's choices and understand that we are all coping as best we can with this pandemic.
Over the last 24 hours, we have identified 1,363 new cases of COVID-19 and completed about 4,986 tests. Our positivity rate for lab-confirmed cases is about 29.3%. Turning to hospitalizations, there are currently a total of 1,586 people with COVID-19 in hospital, including 126 in the ICU. Sadly, I must share that 22 new deaths were reported to Alberta Health over the last 24 hours. I send my sympathies to the family and friends grieving the loss of these Albertans. Their passing leaves a hole in their communities, as does the loss of anyone from any cause.
We looked at, in assessing this, we looked at the measures that are in place and the impact that it has, and the benefits we get from these measures. And as the Premier mentioned earlier this week, we need to let kids be kids. We know that the impact on COVID impacts kids. It tends to be less severe. They're less likely to get and transmit it. Although with Omicron, it is higher transmission rate than we've seen at Delta. We had heard as well as the concerns of the mask and the potential impact on learning, and also we've seen studies that there's a mixed review in terms of efficacy. And so when we were looking at how do we move forward in terms of the taking away the healthcare provisions and the restrictions that we had put in place to manage through COVID, we looked at those that were the least effective, and then actually had the greatest cost. And so that's why the first step was dealing with the REP and removing the REP, and then as well effective February 14th. Removing the requirement for masks in schools and for children 12 and under.
This is a time of transition, and change is always hard. It is especially difficult when we are all exhausted from constant change over the past few years, and our communities are polarized. As much as possible, I ask that all of us seek to be gentle with ourselves and others. We need each other in our communities, and that will never change.